Welcome back, Blue Shirts fans, to episode number 687 of the Locked On New York Rangers podcast. I'm your host, John Chick. Just want to thank you guys, as always, for making Locked On New York Rangers your first listen every day. We are free and available on all platforms, and it is Monday morning as I'm recording this. The Rangers most recently suffered their first loss of the season, falling to the Winnipeg Jets on the road 4-1, a game where the final score really doesn't tell the story. I mean, this was back and forth the entire way. I thought for sure the Jets had the better of play in the first period. Rangers had a hard time finding their legs. Second period, I thought the Rangers really took it to the Jets. Unfortunately, they didn't have anything to show for it because you had Connor Hellebuyck basically standing on his head. He stopped 40 of 41 shots. Rangers probably win this game if the Jets didn't get such a Herculean effort from their goalie. But, that said, there's still some positives coming out of this game for the Rangers. I thought Jaroslav Halak was absolutely excellent in what was his New York Ranger debut. And I want to spend some time today, talking about Halak's performance, also talking about the performance of Libor Hajek, as well as why I was okay with him having a game, early in the season here. I also want to get to some highlights from the game, but I also want to turn the page a little bit and look ahead because, that game was 3 days ago at this point. So want to look ahead to tonight's game. The Rangers will play host to the Anaheim Ducks. The Ducks 1-1 so far this season, so we'll talk a little bit about that matchup. Rangers also looks like they'll probably be without Ryan Carpenter in this game. He had a pretty gruesome injury. It looks like he's okay. He actually posted, a picture of the injury on his own Instagram page. So you got to figure Ryan Carpenter will probably be okay. But obviously, unfortunate that happened to him. And it also looks like the Rangers might be getting Sammy Blais finally back into their lineup, potentially making his season debut tonight in what would be his first NHL hockey game, not counting the preseason, in nearly a calendar year. So good for Sammy Blais. Hope to see him in this game here tonight. But we'll talk about all that in due time. I want to start with a couple of highlights and a couple of talking points from this game against the Jets. To begin with, the Rangers, it was always going to be an uphill battle on Friday, and I don't think that they played their best. I think for sure the first period of the 9 periods that they've played so far this season was their weakest. Like I said, they just didn't have any jump, didn't really have their legs under them, didn't really create any scoring chances, were really back on their heels, kind of relied on Jaroslav Halak to bail them out, which he did early and often in this game. It seemed like they got it going in the second period. I don't know if they got a stern talking to from Gerard Gallant between periods or anything like that. But obviously, they found their game in a competitive game. And then the third period was really kind of a dogfight. I thought the Rangers had the better of play early in the third. And then, the Jets kind of found their game again and ended up winning a close game and a game that certainly could have gone either way. But as for Jaroslav Halak, look, I said in the preseason, we went through potential free agent targets for the New York Rangers, and there weren't really a ton of them because, their budget was so limited, and they basically spent just about everything they had to get Vincent Trocheck, which I do think is a really nice signing. They currently have less than $1 million in cap space. But, you're looking at potential backup goalies, and you're looking at the free agents, and obviously the Rangers aren't going to go after, a top-tier free agent goalie to be their backup because that would make no sense. You've got Igor Shesterkin. You need to save on your backup goalie, and the Rangers did just that with Jaroslav Halak. But to me, he's somebody that, for the most part in his career, has been underrated, has been underappreciated. And I think with Halak, unlike Alex Georgiev, who understandably, he's very young. I think Georgie's about 24 or 25 at this point. He's somebody that was undrafted. I'm sure he's still got a chip on his shoulder about that, and he wants to be a starting goalie in this league. He was never going to get that with the Rangers. So I understand why Georgiev wanted to go somewhere else. But with Jaroslav Halak, 37 years old, he's bounced around the league, played for a bunch of teams, played a bunch of different roles with all these different teams. And, if you're a free agent goalie and you sign with the New York Rangers, you know what you're signing up for. You're going to be the backup goalie. And so I think, Halak, the simple fact that he signed with the Rangers tells me that he's cool with this role. He's cool with, playing number 2 to a goalie that's just better than him at this point in his career. But, Halak, excellent game. Stopped 30 of 33 shots. I don't even think those numbers really do it justice because, like I said, the first period, the Jets were swarming. The Rangers just did not have their legs, and Halak made some really good saves. The first shift of the game, he was making a couple of really tough pad saves, keeping them in it. And the only goal that he gave up, before the final 3 or 4 minutes of this game was in the first period. It was to Mark Scheifele, and this one just had goal written all over it. The Jets had the puck behind the net. They passed in front. Scheifele's all by himself. And, I said, oh, bleep and bleep as soon as I saw Scheifele receive that pass. It just looked like it was going to be a goal, and it was. But Yarrow was awesome in this game. Second period, he had, a save where he had to push off, move to his right really fast, deny a stuff-in attempt, make a really nice pad save. His lateral movement was really, really good in this game. And so, yeah, I'm feeling really good about what I saw from Jaroslav Halak overall in this game. I would imagine a lot of Ranger fans are as well. To me, look, you don't want anything to happen to Igor Shesterkin. We do know he's had a couple of, injuries that have caused him to miss some time the first few seasons of his career. With Halak, I feel like if that happens, if we're in a spot where Igor, knock on wood here, but if Igor has to miss, 2 weeks, 3 weeks with some kind of an injury, Halak can step in there and hold down the fort and give you a chance. And even more, knock on wood, if there's a spot where there's a playoff series where Igor has to miss a game or even 2 games, Halak, again, he at least gives you a chance. It is a massive downgrade going from Igor Shesterkin to basically anybody at this point, but Halak can at least keep the train on the tracks. He can at least give you a chance, and I think that was on full display, with what he did here against the Jets. I also want to talk about Libor Hajek. This was kind of a hot-button debate at the beginning before the game started. A lot of people saw that Hajek was going to be in for Zac Jones, and they weren't happy about it. Oh, my God, why are we going back to Libor Hajek? And this, that, and the other thing. Somebody even tweeted that, oh, great job, Gerard Gallant. You're killing the chemistry of this team already. And I'm like, are you kidding me? Come on. Let's not go nuts here. If you wanted Zac Jones to keep playing, I can appreciate that. There's certainly a case to be made for that. The reason why I was okay with Libor Hajek getting a game here, really a couple reasons. For starters, and I mentioned this not too long ago, but I don't think that you want a situation, Gerard Gallant said as much, you don't want Libor Hajek to be a healthy scratch for 20, 30, 40 games, and then he's got to step into a game in the middle of a season against a division rival or something along those lines, and he hasn't played the entire season. I think it's fine to get him a game, early. As far as the human side of it, I think that, it's not the worst idea. Not that you want to make this a complete, charity case here, but it's not the worst idea to get everybody on your roster a game early in the season. Make them feel like they're part of the team. Get them out there. See what they can do. And I thought Libor Hajek in this game played very well. Zac Jones had a little bit of a hiccup in the game prior. And I still want Zac Jones out there. And we're going to get to that in a second. I still think that regardless of how Libor Hajek did in this game, Zac Jones should be out there for the 4th game of this season. And we'll see if that's what happens. But Hajek, for his part, I thought did pretty well in this game. He certainly wasn't a liability or anything like that. I noticed there was a play, I believe it was in the first period. He was engaged with former Ranger Morgan Barron, who's now on the Jets. He went to the Jets as part of the Andrew Kopp trade last season. But, really physical board battle between the two of them, and Libor Hajek stayed with him all the way. And then Barron went in front of the Ranger net, tried to kind of set up shop there, and Hajek stayed with him again. And kind of, they were tussling a little bit. So that was good to see Libor Hajek stick his nose in there a little bit. There was also a play. This one happened in the second period. The Jets were coming flying in on a rush. And Hajek basically, poke check, knocked the puck away, and basically forced the play to be outside. He kind of disrupted their rush. So that was a really nice play by Hajek there as well. So you just keep your fingers crossed. Look, I don't expect Libor Hajek to become this superstar player for the Rangers. I don't even think he should be out there for the 4th game of the season over Zac Jones. I think the Rangers should go back to Zac Jones for this game against the Ducks here tonight. But you know what? I thought Hajek did okay here, and I have no problem. Look, what did he play in this game? Because I have the box score here. I want to see how many minutes he got. Libor Hajek got 13 minutes and 45 seconds of ice time, which was the fewest among Ranger defensemen. The next fewest was Braden Schneider at 15-14. So this idea that, you're going to kill the chemistry and ruin the momentum and do this and do that and cause all this damage, I don't think the Rangers are going to be completely derailed by Libor Hajek playing one game and getting a lousy 13 minutes of 45 seconds of ice time. I think they'll be okay. So let's not go nuts. If you wanted Zac Jones in there, I can at least understand that. But let's not act like, it's going to doom the Rangers to, just whatever bad things happening this year. I did want to talk about some of the other highlights of this game, and I figure we will get to that in just a second here. But first, gotta let everybody know that today's episode of Locked On New York Rangers is brought to you by SimpliSafe. The numbers do not lie. In the last decade, over 4 million people have chosen SimpliSafe Home Security to protect their home. You don't earn the trust of that many people without doing something right. At SimpliSafe, your safety is the only thing that matters. With 24/7 professional monitoring, SimpliSafe's agents call you the moment a threat is detected and dispatch police or first responders in an emergency, even if you're not home or if you can't be reached. SimpliSafe blankets your home in protection with advanced sensors in every room, window, and door. HD security cameras for inside and outside your home. Smarter ways to detect motion that only alert you when a threat is real. and even hazard sensors that instantly detect fires, floods, and other threats to your home. Our monitoring experts use proprietary advanced response technology to visually confirm when a break-in is real so you can get the highest priority police dispatch. Customize the perfect system for your home in just a few minutes at simplisafe.com/lockedonNHL. Save 20% on your SimpliSafe security system when you sign up for an interactive monitoring plan and get your first month free. Visit simplisafe.com/lockedonNHL to learn more. There's no safe like SimpliSafe. All right, and so just want to thank you guys, as always, for making Locked On New York Rangers your first listen every day. Make your second listen when you're done here, Game to Game NHL. Every moment, every performance, every result, Locked On Game to Game covers every game from across the NHL with local analysis that only Locked On can deliver. Follow Game to Game on Locked On NHL, available on the Odyssey app, YouTube, and wherever you get your podcasts. And so, yeah, I figure we'll keep rolling right along here. I want to talk about a couple other, talking points, highlights from this game here. I thought, the biggest takeaway from me is that we're 3 games into the season. I think the Rangers have been anywhere from pretty good to absolutely excellent in 8 of the 9 periods, the only hiccup being the first period against the Jets. And the Rangers were up against it a little bit, and I'm not trying to make any excuses here. I'm just stating facts. I mean, the Rangers, they're playing the second game of a back-to-back. They're playing their 3rd game in 4 days, and the Winnipeg Jets were playing their first game of the season at home. So that's already going to be a little bit of an uphill battle. I will say, for a team making its, season debut and opening at home and playing a team that was in the Eastern Conference Final like the New York Rangers, kind of something of a marquee matchup, I would say. I mean, I know there's not really any history between the Jets and Rangers, but still, you're going up against a team that made a heck of a run last year. This crowd was ridiculously quiet. I know that they were a disappointing team last year, were the Jets. Maybe they have, that bad taste still in their mouths. I don't know. The only time this crowd really made any noise was when Jacob Trouba had the puck to boo him. That was about it. So make of that what you will. Just thought it was an unusually quiet home crowd here in Winnipeg, especially for the first game of the season. But yeah, I mean, it is what it is. There was a situation in this game, and I got to give a little bit of a shout out to Vinny on Twitter because he pointed this out to me. Artemi Panarin is not, he's obviously a phenomenal player. His strong suit is not breakaways because he was 0 for 8 on breakaways last season, which just boggles your mind to think about because he's so skilled with the puck and just has all these tricks up his sleeve. You would think that he would finish on breakaways more often than not. And on top of that, he's phenomenal in shootouts in his career. I think he's right around 50%. I would have to look that up, but it's right around 50%. Might even be a little bit better than 50%, which is phenomenal as far as shootouts are concerned. And I realize, shootouts, breakaways, it's a little bit different. Shootouts, you're going to take the attempt. You know that there's nobody else on the ice. There's nobody chasing you from behind. It's just you and the goalie, and you can plan out your move. But even so, I would still expect Artemi Panarin to be better at breakaways than he's been, and he was stopped on a breakaway in this one. He was in the penalty box and came out of the penalty box. Mika Zibanejad had a phenomenal pass up the ice, springs him on the breakaway. Connor Hellebuyck ends up stopping him. So that was kind of a bummer there. Rangers had a chance to go up 1-0. It did not happen. And the Rangers, they, like I said, tough first period. I thought in the second period, something that kind of got them going a little bit was the fourth line. They had a shift where they had the puck in the offensive zone, some good O-zone time there, and a couple of really big hits. Ryan Reeves had a big hit. Dryden Hunt had a big hit. Ryan Carpenter was still in the game at that point. More on him in a minute. But yeah, I thought that kind of got the Rangers going a little bit. And when this happened, it was interesting because, like I said, some sustained offensive zone time for the fourth line here, a couple of big hits, and eventually Hellebuyck froze the puck. Now you've got an offensive zone draw forthcoming, and there's part of me that thinks like, okay, well, it's time to get, one of the top 2 lines onto the ice. You've got an O-zone face-off forthcoming, and, you want to take advantage of that. You want to get a scoring chance here in a game where scoring chances have been few and far between for the Rangers. But by that same token, I understood Gallant's decision to leave the fourth line on the ice here, which I normally, for the fourth line, you don't want them taking like 7 or 8 offensive zone draws in a game, but I think 1 or 2 is okay. And to this point, like I said, it had been a pretty nondescript game for the Rangers. They just hadn't gotten anything going. The fact that, this fourth line had just come up with the best shift of the game, arguably, for the Rangers to this point, I think it was fine to leave them out there and give them a chance to do something. They didn't end up scoring or anything like that, but I am a big fan of players being rewarded for strong play. And like I said, I really do think that was the best shift of the game up to that point for the Rangers. And I tweeted out not too long after this, because the Rangers were down 1-0 for a long time in this game, and I tweeted out that, I'm feeling a goal from a bottom sixer. I feel like somebody on the bottom six is going to come through with a goal. And I was half right, because Dryden Hunt ended up scoring a game-tying goal for the New York Rangers. But by this point, Ryan Carpenter was injured and out of the game. It was into the third period at this point, about 4 minutes into the third period. And Hunt scored while he was out there with Panarin and Trocheck. So flashbacks to last season, Dryden Hunt getting a little bit of a look in the top six. Of course, it was necessitated by the fact that the Rangers were down a forward anytime that happens. Which, by the way, that feels like it's happening in every game for the Rangers this season. A forward gets hurt, they have to go with 11 forwards the rest of the game and kind of mix and match, and guys moving up and down and all over the place, double shifting, the whole 9 yards. But yeah, Dryden Hunt took advantage of an opportunity here. This was an outstanding goal by the Rangers. You had Panarin moving in up the left side of the ice, and he's along the boards. He hits the brakes and creates some separation. And something that I've noticed from Panarin, it's something that's always kind of been there, but it's really stood out to me early in the season here. Something that he's very good at. He can just stop on a dime, and a lot of times when he does that, the defender, the defenseman, whoever it is, they'll kind of just go flying by him. Like they don't see that move coming. They don't see him stopping like that. You don't think of Panarin as like a warrior along the boards, but that's one thing that he can do very well in that situation. He'll go flying up the boards, and then he'll just stop, and then whoever's defending him is just kind of left flailing, and they just go sailing right by him. So that's what happened here. Panarin hit the brakes. He passes to Trocheck. Trocheck was a little bit late coming into the zone, but he finds him, hits him in stride. Trocheck did have to kind of turn and receive this pass on his backhand, but Trocheck keeps moving toward the goal line. Trocheck spins to his left, throws a pass across the crease to Dryden Hunt, and Hunt, the pass wasn't right on the money. So Hunt, instead of receiving it with his stick, he had to use his right skate to, corral the puck. But he does that very effectively and, flicks a shot into the top shelf and beats Connor Hellebuyck, which was no small feat on this night. Like I said, that was the only goal he allowed on 41 shots. And I really do think the Rangers are 3-0 right now, if not for the play of Connor Hellebuyck. But I got to give props to Dryden Hunt here. This is a phenomenal play, showing some skill there. And instead of trying to reach for the pass with his stick, which would not have worked, to have the wherewithal to, understand to knock it down with his skate first and take his time with it. He was wide open on this play, take advantage of the extra time that he had, and then an absolute snipe, from right there on the doorstep. So great stuff there by that second line, or the makeshift second line, or whatever you want to call it. But really, really cool seeing Dryden Hunt score that goal there. He started the season as a healthy scratch. He is a hardworking player. I think his upside is extremely limited, but a fantastic play here by all three guys, Panarin, Trocheck, and Dryden Hunt, making it happen and tying the game. And then, unfortunately, not a lot of time left, about 4 minutes or so. The Jets end up scoring the game-winning goal. It was Gagne. You had a situation where Gustafsson was behind the net. He won a board battle against K'Andre Miller, which was unfortunate. I thought Miller, he was going to get to the puck first, and Gustafsson just got the puck away from him, got it in front, a little bit of chaos, and Halak made what was one of many of his outstanding saves on this play against Gagne. Unfortunately, Gagne got his own rebound, put it into the twine, and just like that, the Jets are up 2-1. Then, of course, the Rangers, they're looking for the equalizer. Trouba takes a penalty with about 2:30 to go, so now you're shorthanded trying to get the game-tying goal, and, of course, it never even really came to fruition because the Jets score on the power play. And then they added the empty netter. So final score 4-1, but that's not indicative of how this game went. It was very back and forth, very evenly matched, and certainly could have gone either way. And once again, I do think would have gone the way of the Rangers had it not been for the phenomenal play of Connor Hellebuyck. But yeah, I figure that's pretty much it as far as the game against the Jets. Like I said, it was 3 days ago. So in just a second, I want to go ahead and kind of turn the page. The Rangers practiced on Sunday. And, talk about that. Also talk about some of the injuries and talk about this matchup against the Anaheim Ducks here tonight. I think a prime opportunity for the Rangers to bounce back, which was kind of their calling card last season. Anytime they suffered a loss, far more often than not, they would come back that much stronger in the next game. So we will talk about all that in just a second. Okay. Updates from practice on Sunday. I figure we might as well go ahead and start with the line combinations because they are a little bit different. The top six is still the same, as it pretty much should be. You've got Mika centering Kreider and Kakko. You've got Trocheck centering Panarin and Lafreniere. No reason to make any changes there. Both those lines have looked good for the most part this season. The third line looks a little bit different. You've got Hedl centering Vesey on the left wing. and Sammy Blais on the right wing. And I'm really excited for Sammy Blais. It's been a long road back, and he's out there for the preseason after not getting to play a whole lot for the Rangers last year, taken out on a dirty play, by PK Subban. And yeah, I mean, he's getting his opportunity here tonight, and he's going to get to do it in a top 9 role, so that's exciting. It's interesting, you've kind of got 2 grinders in VZ and Blais and a skill guy in Filipino, but, we'll see how that line comes together. I'm certainly willing to give it a chance. And as far as, the players that are available right now, I think that's probably the way to go. I think you would go with those 3 players. There's a case to be made for Barclay Goodrow perhaps playing on the third line instead of one of these guys, but it's probably not the way to go right now because you need a center for the fourth line, and you do not have your fourth line center right now because Ryan Carpenter was cut really bad by a skate, as I mentioned, in the most recent game. And, I mean, he posted a picture, like I said, I think it was on Instagram. It made its rounds on Twitter as well, though. But I'm glad he's okay, or as okay as he can be after suffering an injury like this. I thought about, maybe showing it here. And, of course, I would give a disclaimer that if you're squeamish, okay, skip ahead 15 seconds. I don't want to show it on YouTube because YouTube can be a little bit weird with this kind of stuff and, shut down your channel or whatever. So I don't want to show that. You can seek it out yourself, but I would caution, do it at your own risk because it is not a pretty picture of what happened to him. His ear got cut a little bit. Looks like he's got some stitches, and just very, very thankful that it wasn't worse than it was. And every time this happens, I know I've mentioned this before on the podcast, but I'm always just amazed that it happens seemingly as infrequently as it does when somebody gets cut pretty bad by a skate. I mean, you guys see how hard these guys compete, and you've got all these scrums in the goalie crease, and everybody's flying everywhere, and people are down on the ice, and people are off balance. It's amazing it does not happen more often than it does. I'm thankful that it does not. And Carpenter, like I said, just very, very thankful that this wasn't worse than it was, and we'll see how long he's going to be out. But yeah, with him being out of the lineup or seemingly out of the lineup for this game tonight, you've got Goodrow centering Hunt on the left wing and Ryan Reeves on the right wing, which is pretty much the common sense way to go here. You've got no Carpenter, and you still don't have Vitaly Kravtsov. Kravtsov was skating as an extra during the practice, and we'll see when he's able to come back. Haven't really heard anything definitive. It doesn't sound like it's going to be a super long time, but it also, I haven't heard anything from Gallant that suggests that his return is imminent. We'll see. The Rangers play Thursday against the Sharks. That's their next game after tonight's game against the Ducks. So we'll just see if Kravtsov is able to skate in that game. Something interesting from practice as well. I mentioned that I was okay with Libor Hajek, getting a game, but it sounds like at practice the Rangers were rotating 7 defensemen, and that in the first rotation during the scrimmage, you had Schneider out there with Hajek. Make of that what you will. That does seem like a little bit of a hint that we might be getting Hajek out there again with Schneider tonight. I'm not a big fan of that. I think Zac Jones is pretty much ready to go in the NHL, but you got to let him take his lumps here and there. He had that one missed play against the Minnesota Wild that led to a goal, but it was harmless enough. The Rangers won that game 7-3 and pretty handily. But, yeah, I don't know. Hajek did all right. I would like to see Zac Jones back out there in this lineup, though. Hajek, to me, should be the 7th defenseman for the Rangers. Also of note, though, is that Zac Jones was getting some time with the Rangers' second power play unit. And it seems like for that second unit, they're pretty much going to go with Trouba and the 3 kids, the kid line, Lafreniere, Kakko, and Hedel. And then, the 5th spot is kind of up for grabs. We saw Kravtsov there for a time in the preseason. And then, of course, he gets hurt in the regular season. We'll see if he's back out there whenever he returns to the lineup. But yeah, I mean, I got no issues with Zac Jones. I would think maybe Keandre Miller would get that spot, although Zac Jones, by all accounts, that is one of the strengths to his game. So it's nice that the Rangers have so many options. If we were doing an episode at this point in the season 2 years ago, certainly 3 years ago, we'd be sitting here trying to figure out how to even fill out the lineup, much less the 2 power play units. So it's nice that the Rangers do have all these different options and guys that are very well suited to play on the man advantage. Apparently, it was also a pretty physical practice on Sunday. There was, according to a tweet from Colin Stevenson, there was a incident where Ryan Reeves, put Keandre Miller into the boards pretty hard. So sounds like the Rangers were, competing pretty hard in this game. And as far as anything else that I want to talk about here today, I mean, we got this game against the Ducks coming up. For anybody wondering, the Ducks are 1-1 to start the season. They beat the Kraken 5-4 in overtime in their first game. They then turned around and lost 7-1 to the Islanders. I don't know how you give up 7 goals to the Islanders, but the Ducks somehow found a way. And as far as, former Rangers, you've got Ryan Strome. I think some people might be interested in this. Ryan Strome is centering the top line. He's out there with Mason McTavish and Troy Terry. And Frank Vatrano has been on the second line, actually playing the left wing, which he can do. It's easy to forget that because he was only ever on the right wing for the Rangers. But he's on the left wing, and he's out there with Trevor Zegras and Pavel Regenda. And on opening night, Ryan Strome actually got 3 points, a goal and 2 assists, and Frank Vatrano scored a goal as well. So, you could pretty much pencil, they're at least going to get a point. I would sign up for right now. If you told me that, one of them would assist the other for a goal tonight, and I know they're on different lines, but if one of them would assist a goal for the night, but that's it, besides that, there's no more scoring from Strome or Vatrano, I would sign up for that. I think the Rangers would be able to overcome that and win this game, in a pretty, I don't want to say dominant fashion, but it's a game that the Rangers should win. And it's no disrespect to the Ducks. They were not a good team at all last year. I don't think that they're looking like a special team this season. I'm not as familiar with the Western Conference teams as the Eastern Conference teams, but it's a game that the Rangers should win. They should bounce back as they've done all last season. Hopefully that becomes a trend again this season. You can start that tonight. So we'll see how it goes. Rangers also signed a defenseman, Ben Harpur, to an AHL PTO deal. Ben Harpur has played 156 games in the NHL. We're going to discuss him in a little bit greater detail in a future episode. There was a lot to do here today, and obviously this is a pretty minor signing for the Rangers, but you got to figure that they're doing this in part because, of course, Jared Tenorti was claimed on waivers by the Chicago Blackhawks. He's out of the picture, and Ben Harpur, in theory, could be organizational depth and somebody that you could slot in there with the Hartford Wolfpack. So we'll see how that shakes out. But like I said, we'll discuss Harpur in future detail in a future episode. And LED boards. I wanted to talk about this too because there was an episode not too long ago where, I mentioned that it's a little bit distracting watching this on TV. You've got all these advertisements, going up and down on the boards. Apparently, the players cannot see this, which is good because they shouldn't be able to see this. It'd be very distracting in my personal opinion if you're a player out there trying to deal with this nonsense. But it's basically like, the first down marker in the NHL, or in the NFL, excuse me, where, we can see the line, but the players on the field cannot see the line. So that's pretty much the long and short of it. The players cannot see those boards, which I guess you wouldn't really call them LED boards. I guess they're just TV graphics or whatever you want to call it. They're a little bit on the annoying side, but I guess we'll all get used to them like we do with all these other changes that the NHL makes. One other thing I wanted to mention real quick here, Brent Offman, obviously he could not play for the Hartford Wolfpack this season. He was 6 days too young to be eligible to play for them. He has 11 points in 5 games in the OHL, just putting up ridiculous numbers. And, there's not much else for him to do in the OHL, but that's where he is right now, and I suppose the Flint Firebirds are happy that he's back, and we'll continue to monitor his progress. We'll check in with him from time to time. We'll check in from time to time with the other Ranger prospects. We'll check in on how the Hartford Wolfpack are doing. We'll do that as soon as we have an episode here where the Rangers haven't played the night before. But yeah, that's pretty much it for today, guys. I figure we can call it there. If you'd like to get in touch with this podcast, please send an email to lockedonnyrangers@gmail.com. Once again, that is lockedonnyrangers@gmail.com. And definitely give us a follow on Twitter as well, @LO_NY_Rangers. Once again, that is @LO_NY_Rangers. And definitely subscribe to Locked On New York Rangers YouTube channel. Thanks again, guys. I'll see you next time. Thanks for making Locked On New York Rangers your first listen every day. Now make your second listen Locked On Fantasy Hockey. Steele Rodine and Flip Livingston bring you the fantasy edge and keep you ahead of the competition with daily updates of news, analysis, and advice Monday through Friday. Available on YouTube, Odyssey, and wherever you get your podcasts.